welcome to the colleagues in the hall, but also the colleagues online who are joining us from our other campuses. This is the first staff assembly for the year, and we're really glad to see all of you join us. I'm sure that the heat is probably slowing some people down, but we look forward to seeing people join us. I'm Miriam Hussain, Chief Director for HR, and I'm standing in for Prof. Nico Koopman today because he's not able to be here. So, colleagues, I think before we proceed, I'd like us to take a brief moment of silence. And we always do this. It's really such a good practice. It's an important practice, especially in the context of our people-centered vision. And we take this moment of silence to honor colleagues and family members in our SU community whom we have lost this year. We hold their memory with respect and gratitude. Thank you very much, colleagues. So this is today's program, but what's really important to share with you is that in compiling the agenda, we asked all staff members for input. And the agenda is built around the themes from these inputs. And so the rector will address these points in his presentation. And then we will have a presentation on performance advancement, and then we'll go to a question and answer session. And then at the end, we'll continue the exciting initiative of the end of last year, and we'll have a lucky draw. So with that, I hand over to Prof. Daresh Ramjagannath, our Rector and Vice Chancellor. Thanks, Prof.
Thank you very much, Miriam. Good afternoon, everyone. It's very nice to see all of you. I must apologize. I decided not to wear a jacket this afternoon, but I think you would understand why, right? It's really warm in Stellenbosch this week. First of all, it's hard to believe that we are in the middle of March. Where's January and February gone to? But saying that, I think it's been a fairly good start to the academic year. We had some speed bumps along the way over the last few months, but overall, engaging with our students, engaging with most of our staff, and with our stakeholders, the perception is that we've had a good start to the academic year. And for us to have a good start to the academic year, it goes down to the contributions that are made by all of our staff to ensuring that the university has this good start. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you for all the work that you've done over the last few months to ensure that Stellenbosch University has had a good start to the academic year. Now, as Miriam has said, the staff assembly is a space where staff must feel free and open to engage with university leadership. And we want staff to be involved in the agenda setting for the staff assembly. So you've seen that there was an email that went out last week, and we're going to try over the next few staff assemblies to shift ourselves to a kind of engagement mode as opposed to a presentation mode that we had in the past. So we're going to be in a hybrid mode this time around, but next time it'll be a lot more time for Q&A. And I was really excited when I saw the response from staff. We had 103 submissions with regards to questions from staff, and it's very encouraging. This is exactly what we want to see in our university community, where staff feel free to be able to engage with leadership and to be able to ask the difficult questions and for us to be able to respond to that. I think you would know it, obviously it's going to be impossible to answer individual questions when we have 103 questions. So what the team has done is that they have grouped the questions into themes, and so we'll be responding to the questions in the themes. However, there will still be about 30 minutes that we would have for individual questions to be raised from the assembly, both in the hall as well as online. Now, in terms of our vision as a university, I think some of you would have seen this. I also shared the strategy plan 2026 to 2030 with the entire university community. You'd see that we have a focus or a lens of looking at the way we enhance the institution through a lens of academic excellence enhancement, improving our partnerships and our sustainability. But probably the most important one is around how do we engage and improve our people, our processes, our culture within the institution. And interestingly enough, the majority of the questions that were raised by staff are around this particular theme. I've mentioned this before. In an organization like ours, you've got lots of buildings, lots of infrastructure, but the most important, if you want to call it asset, if you want to put it that way, is our people. Our people actually make the institution and ensure the performance of the institution. So we've got to pay particular attention to how we create a really enabling, nurturing environment at Stellenbosch University for our people to flourish and thrive, because when our people flourish and thrive, it means the institution flourishes and thrives in its achievements. So in terms of the themes and the questions that were coming up, there were a number of questions related to 13 checks. And I assume when people were asking these questions, they were mainly about getting an additional payment as a 13th payment. So Stellenbosch University, in 2001, we moved to a way of HR having a total cost to company for our remuneration model for the university. And in that remuneration model, you can make the decision as to whether you want your total remuneration to be paid over 12 months equally, or whether you want it to be paid with a 13 check, meaning that they will take your same remuneration divided by 13, and then you'll get your 12 months, and then you'll get a 13 check. That is the way the package currently works within the institution. However, I think what people are looking at is whether we can have an increased remuneration package. So the increased remuneration package, I can tell you that on an annual basis, the Human Resources and Remuneration Committee, we go through an exercise of benchmarking Stellenbosch University salaries against the market. And when we're doing benchmarking against the market, it's not just against other universities, but it's with regards to the entire, if you want to call it, sector as well. And typically, we would then ensure that Stellenbosch University doesn't fall behind the market. So we benchmark to the market, and that's benchmarked on the total remuneration package. And based on that, you would see that there will be adjustments that are made on an annual basis. And HR will be able to answer questions around specifics as to how it's undertaken and how do we benchmark and to what percentile do we benchmark in the market. But I can assure you that this is done on an annual basis. It's done, but it's also done, as I mentioned at the last staff assembly, with regards to the affordability aspect for the institution, because there is also a sustainability that we've got to look into the institution. As we ensure that the institution becomes more financially sustainable, then we can start to look at how we can be more competitive as an organization. There were also questions around staff turnover at Stellenbosch University. I think there were perceptions that there was very high staff turnover because of things like remuneration and because of things like culture and so forth within the organization. I can share with you that staff turnover over the last 3 years, in 2023, it was 7.3%. In 2024, it was 6.3%. And in 2025, it is 6%. So you can see there's been a decline in people that are leaving the institution. All institutions have staff turnover that sits around 5 to 6%. That is a healthy organization to have that kind of staff turnover. However, I think we also see that what we've got to do as an institution is to ensure that we keep our staff, ensure it's an environment in which they are excited to come to work. And there's a lot of initiatives that HR is currently undertaking to ensure that we build up that component of human resources support, especially around the incentivization, the enumeration, the kind of training and the support and so forth as elements that ensure that we become an employer of choice. There were a number of questions that were raised with regards to work from home and flexible working hours. Stellenbosch University is a residential university. We're not an online university. We are a residential university. And so the default is in the workplace, to be in the workplace, to be on site, on campus. However, there are flexible work arrangements permitted only where operational requirements allow, and it must also ensure that there's no disruptions to service delivery within the institution. So I think from that you can understand that you cannot have a situation where everyone can work from home. There is really a need for presence on campus. Our students are on campus, and when the service delivery requires it, people have to be on campus. Typically, line managers will approve these arrangements, and it will be based on job type, on the collaborative needs of that particular job and portfolio, and also whether it has client-facing responsibilities. So obviously, if you are working in an environment where you've got to engage face-to-face with staff and with students, it's going to be near impossible to be able to work from home. However, there can also be considerations for flexible work, and it's a different consideration. However, we do understand, given that there are challenges with transportation and traffic in the municipality, and with the conflict at the moment in the Middle East, there's issues around the price of fuel. So we also need to look at fairness in terms of this hybrid flexible work arrangements, and we need to ensure that it's consistent, that it's transparent, and it's aligned with job and operational requirements. There is an expectation, though, that when line managers do approve staff to work from home, that they remain available during office hours, okay? So that we don't end up, unfortunately, sometimes with staff not being available, and as a result of that, the business continuity becomes a problem in the organization. And they also need to ensure that there's adequate connectivity and that there's infrastructure for them to function well from home. So these are all the requirements that come into that. Arrangements are context-specific, and staff should not compare their work from home days with colleagues in other divisions. So we find at the institution there may be other divisions that are a lot more applicable in terms of work from home arrangements than say an environment that is very customer facing within the organization. So it's also to bear that in mind when you're looking at the consistency within the organization. Another major theme that came up was with regards to work-based culture. I shared with you at previous staff assemblies that we do have a challenge at Stellenbosch University, and we have a lot of work to do in terms of really creating a humanizing culture at the institution. There's a lot of work that's going into how we develop that within the organization. Some of the work that's currently being undertaken is the implementation of a respectful, safe, and inclusive workplace plan. That's to strengthen the culture, the psychological safety that we need for staff, as well as accountability. We find that there is inequitable accountability at the institution, and we need to ensure that there is a culture of accountability within the organization. There's various plans to ensure that policies and that we have targeted leadership training and accessible reporting channels to ensure that we create this kind of humanizing culture at the institution. There's a lot of capacity building that we're undertaking that's focusing primarily at this point in time on line managers, because we believe that more work can be done in the institution to equip our line managers to be more effective managers in the work that they do. A lot of the challenges that we face with culture issues, with accountability issues, stem from inadequate training and development of line managers, as well as senior leaders within the institution. And it's not just about equipping them in terms of HR policies and understanding of HR policies, but also equipping them in terms of the emotional intelligence that they need to have in dealing with things like well-being, about being true ambassadors, and really understanding the HR practices within the institution. We're also looking at the development of mediation services and well-being programs to staff and making this widely available to staff. And there's going to be an SU Senior Leadership Coaching Program that's going to be launched, or has been launched, and it's a program that's in collaboration between Human Resources and the Stellenbosch Business School, in particular to equip and train our grades 1 to 6 leaders within the institution about what does it mean to be or create a humanizing culture and a real enabling and nurturing environment for staff to flourish and thrive within the organization. There were a number of questions around promotion and training opportunities. I must admit that I think in the past our human resources was far too transactional, and that a lot of efforts that we've been placing in the last year has been in terms of capacitating human resources so that they can do the work on ensuring that we develop the right kind of initiatives, practices, policies within the institution to recognize, to reward, and to ensure that we have support and training for our staff within the institution. So there's been massive investments that we've been making in that regard, and in time, hopefully, we will start to bear the fruits of that investment and the additional capacity that we're putting into human resources in that regard. The presentation that you're going to have next, which is the proposed performance advancement process, aims to strengthen a focus on development conversations between line manager and staff, and the development for current and possible future roles that staff can play within the organization. Development, though, is our current priority as an institution. We really want to ensure that we equip our staff to be able to utilize their strengths so that they can perform at their optimal levels within the institution. And career progression is something that we're also looking at. However, I've said this before, currently within the professional support staff environment, administrative support staff environment, career progression is limited by the structures and by available positions. And so we are also going to look at innovative ways in which we start to look at opportunities for progression as well as recognition and reward within the professional and administrative support structures of the institution. Very much part of our performance advancement framework is to really create a performance culture within the organization. So I've said this on multiple occasions. I think at Stellenbosch University, we've got staff that work really hard. We recognize that. We're trying to find mechanisms of which we can improve our processes so that we reduce administrative burden and kind of issues around our systems and processes. A number of the issues that were raised were also around systems and processes. I fully appreciate and recognize that staff are frustrated and have been frustrated for a while now with regards to SUNFIN and SunStudent and the challenges that we have in terms of you being able to effectively do your job using these platforms. But I can assure you that as an institution, we are making significant strides in addressing those challenges that we face. I think if you really start to look at Sun Student, the platform today is in a much better position than it was 2-3 years ago. And so Antoinette, our Chief Director of IT, will be able to answer questions in terms of what are we doing to really advance this. System change, platform changes are not instantaneous, meaning that there's always challenges with getting them embedded, with getting the change management to take place in organizations. And I think some of the workshops and conferences that Antoinette has been to emphasize that these kind of platform changes, every organization faces challenges with them, but it's about how intentional and deliberate we are as an organization to address those challenges and to ensure we get the platform to a fully optimal level as soon as possible. The same thing is in terms of Sunfin. I know a number of staff are really frustrated with Sunfin. Some of it stemmed to capacity issues, issues that we've had with student funding, issues that we've had with projects and grants, with getting reports in terms of expenditure. These are really challenging issues, and I really appreciate the frustration of staff in that regard. The team has been hard at work to try to find solutions to all of these challenges. Some of them are still outstanding, but even Sunfin at this point is in a much better position than what it was a year ago, or even a year and a half ago within the institution. Yes, there's still significant work that we've got to do to improve it, and we've got a number of initiatives working in that regard. And sometimes it may seem that the progress isn't as significant as what we would like it to be. But remember, there's a lot of foundational work that needs to be done in order to really see the benefits of the improvement work that's been done behind the scenes in both the platforms. So I'm going to stop there for now. There's going to be a presentation by our HR team on performance advancement, and then we're going to open it up for questions, and we'll go into more detail with regards to the questions from the assembly. Thank you.
Thanks very much, VC. Colleagues, you heard the rector speak about investing in organizational development and effectiveness in HR. And I just want to take the opportunity to share with you that when I joined the university not too long ago, there was a long list of needs that we had at Stellenbosch University, and most of them fell in the organizational development and effectiveness domain. But we didn't have any organizational development and effectiveness function in HR. So the first thing we did was to create that structure in HR, and the person I'm going to introduce you to, Hofman Geier, came to help us while we were in the process of recruiting substantively. He joined us from a sister university, and he came to help us with a number of ODE projects. And that list is very long still, and there's a lot of work to do. So absolutely, Rector, we have started, but all of this, there's a long list, and it's really critical work. So I also want to just take the opportunity, if I may, to, in terms of this investment, introduce, Hofman, if I may, both colleagues who have joined ODE in HR. The first person, Vivian, if you don't mind, standing up and just show. I'm not going to ask you to speak. I'm sure there's going to be many opportunities. So Vivian Moniela has joined us in HR as the Director for HR, Organizational Development and Effectiveness. And Hofman is still going to be helping Vivian and us and the university with some of this ODE work that's on this list. So Hofman, also thank you to you for staying, even though it's on a temporary basis, to assist us. Thank you. And then the other person I quickly want to introduce, I don't know where she is, it's Farzana Dawood. Prof. Deresh spoke about the coaching program, and Farzana's role will be to coordinate and facilitate and report on coaching for line managers at Paromni's level 1 to 6. Is Farzana here? I did see her earlier, there she is. Very warm welcome on behalf of all of us to these two colleagues. With that, Hofman, I know we have a time limit, so I'm going to hand over immediately to you. They've told me that you've got 10 minutes So if it will be helpful, I'll signal to you 2 minutes before the time's up. And colleagues, as the rector said, you'll have opportunity to ask questions in the Q&A session. Thanks.
Colleagues, sorry, am I audible? Can you all hear me? I couldn't break it. So, as the Vice-Chancellor and Principal mentioned that Human Resources will do a presentation, can my HR colleagues please come and do the presentation? So I will do the presentation on behalf of Human Resources, and very honored to do so. My friend, Dr. Wayne Miller, reprimanded me yesterday to please stay within the 10 minutes. And I said to Wayne, can I at least just introduce myself and have a proper intro into this particular assembly. So, my name is Hofmar Geier. I'm part of the ODE team, reporting to the director of ODE, which is Vivian Moniela. Part of, I think that we in a good space with our Chief Director and Program Director, Miriam Hussein, in terms of the strategy going forward. So, colleagues, a warm welcome, goeiemiddag, Kunjani, and Dumela for those people, or Dumelang, or Dumalang, for those people that comes from, like Jan Knight is always saying, coming from Transvaal. Jan Knight don't believe that there's a place like Gauteng. So, colleagues, yeah, as with any, I'm going to just deal with a few issues related to, so the presentation will be 10 minutes. Thereafter we will, like as the Vice-Chancellor and Principal indicated, I'd like to have a more question session and more engagement. So, in terms of the introduction, I think it is common knowledge that any progression towards from good to great, or from being a preferred institution or an employer of choice, requires the quality, the dedication, the contribution of its employees, of course, also the vision of leadership. That's one particular issue. How you channel that into alignment with performance, alignment with the policies, alignment with the objectives of the university and the strategic goals of the university, that is the critical part. And that's the basis for performance advancement. We had several engagements with the faculties. We had good input from faculties that we've received, that we will reflect on. We will work with faculties as well as yourselves. And that is what I think what Vice-Chancellor and Principal, and apologies that I don't say Rector, I just remember Vice-Chancellor and Principal or Rector, is to engage also with support staff in terms of also to hear your voice and to listen to you. It's part of the humanizing culture, or moving towards that culture, is to hear the voices of people, whether you're in academia or whether you're not in academia. So that is critical in terms of the objectives. The objectives is firstly to have a standardized approach. I went through, when I started here, I went through the policy, which is 84 pages long, and after page 6, I just stopped. I looked at the results in terms of consistency and standardization, and it's hugely problematic. It's done in some areas. There are areas of pockets of excellence, and other areas, none. There are areas that are just, those are just the fives. As a faculty or as a division, which doesn't make sense compared to areas that really make huge contributions, like in terms of learning and teaching and supervision and research and innovation and Prof. Vickers, thank you for that, leadership and administration, as well as academic and support services, which are listed as a 3.2 or whatever. It doesn't make sense. So we need to look at that, and we need to standardize. Fair recognition, that's something that the Director is very serious about. Obviously, that will be done within the sustainable framework. Individual development, focus on individual development, enabling staff to achieve institutional role-specific and personal goals. Now again, there may be a question, or there was a question, in fact, is does performance advancement, does that mean career development and upgrading? That's not what it means. There's a very clear career path in terms of academics, which obviously is centralized and budget from a centralized point of view and institutionally mandated. As the university grows, it's output-based, based on learning and teaching and everything that goes with it. And unfortunately, our current system in terms of support staff is triggered by means of vacancies. So that is an area that was indicated that we need to look at. Time-saving automation, critical is that we've automated the system with the assistance of Wessel and his team, as well as Antoinette's team. We didn't just fall in because there was a system. What we did is we wrote the rules in terms of how the system should look like and to try and then for the system to work for us. I looked at some data yesterday because Dr. van der Merwe, Antoinette and Dr. Ellen Tice, they participated in the pilot group. And within those areas, if you look at the objectives and the reports, you can see 80% of it is related to administration. Now, if we want to become and have this vision of the Vice Chancellor and Principal to move within the top 100 of universities, you can't have 80% objectives which is administrative based. There must be a huge focus and movement towards innovation, development of the organization, and that's what he wants to achieve. Streamline reporting, and that's what I've just mentioned, is that obviously the system, otherwise what's the purpose of the system? We must get that data from the system that will indicate to us whether we are making progress and there's continuous improvement. What is different from the 2025 discussions versus 2026 is transformation. There's a standalone KPI applicable to levels 1 to 4. You would recall there was also a call for a transformation for staff members levels 5 to 19. So that has been taken away. However, there is still that commitment that employees, where and if applicable, will support the leadership, obviously, in terms of transformation and the objectives. Comprehensiveness, I think the policy is much clearer than it was. There's clear governance structures and fairness. Calibration, just quickly touch on that. Calibration is not moderation. It's not changing scores. It is to ensure that there's appropriate fairness at the environmental level. We still need to define that. For instance, Miriam's or the Chief Director's area could be an environment, or Prof. Koopman's area could be an environment. And then obviously also on an institutional level, and that needs to be refined as we go along. And it's simply to deal with outliers, either outliers on the top or outliers at the bottom. Calibration panels are not there to adjudicate individual disputes. It's not there to act as review bodies for challenges to outcomes. It's not there to exercise final authority over reward allocation or bonus quantums. That's executive prerogative. Review mechanisms has been built in, so if there's any dissatisfaction with regard to particular processes and procedures, then there's a mechanism for that to be reviewed. Always important that review, calibration process as well as a review process, it goes back to the appraisor. And it's not forced upon, except if there's a decision that it's clearly unfair. Where are we going from here? It's up until the end of March. We need to finalize our contracts. Firstly, we need to finalize our evaluation for the period 2025. That's the first issue. We need to finalize our contracts for the way forward for this year. And I think what's critical is the quality of contracting. Why do I say so? That makes calibration so much easier. It makes evaluation so much easier. So, and HR will be very involved with that particular process. There will also, and this has been communicated by the rector, there will also be a process whereby there will be a recognition and reward for top performers in the university. That's a first overall. And then obviously we will, depending on the governance structures, from here tomorrow we have HRCC, and then I think there's a Senate meeting for further debate, and then hopefully there's a recommendation to Council for approval. We will see how that all result into, hopefully, for that to be approved. If approved, then the 13th of April, and we're quite confident in terms of that, that will lead us into the process of proper change management, proper OD, proper training, and that people feel comfortable with what they are doing and what they're seeing. And it is a continuous journey. This journey is, the first phase is contracting, the second phase is about the evaluation. So colleagues, that's my presentation for our colleagues from Transvaal and from Limpopo, Kia leboga. To the others, Nkosi, thank you. And baie dankie, thank you.
Hofman, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the presentation. Colleagues, we now open for questions. And I just want to remind the staff at our satellite campuses that they can email questions to the room on the address. I think, is there an address on the screen?
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to speak up. So I'm a junior researcher in the economics faculty, and I submitted a question around potentially expanding the benefit for free schooling to not just direct kids, but also the employees' chosen family or other members. In the case where people might not have kids or want kids, but still are responsible for other people in their family. And I wanted to know what discussion there's been around that.
I just want to thank you for the question. I just want to make sure I understand it. You were asking about what is it, the facilities that are available for preschooling?
It's an employee benefit.
Employee benefit.
Where if you're a permanent employee, your kids can school for free within the university, but it only applies to your direct kids. But then if you're maybe providing for siblings or other family members and don't have kids of your own, is there no way to allow you to assign or allocate that benefit to the family members you're actually responsible for.
Thank you. That's very clear. I'm going to ask Yapi, who's our Center of Excellence Director for Benefits and Remuneration, to respond to that, if I may. Yapi, the HR team must perhaps move to the front. Thank you.
Thank you. There's a cost involved for the free tuition fee, the exemption of tuition fee. And at the moment, we're running about 28 mil. I think that was the last cost in the budget for the exemption. And we are looking at some other incentives for exemption of tuition fees, but to extend that to non-children or non-dependents as classified in our benefits document will be very difficult. It will be unsustainable to continue with that benefit.
Thanks, Yapi. Thank you. Any other questions? Prof. Geo?
Thank you. I want to ask the VC. So VC, I'm very pleased to hear that there's now an appreciation of the staff implications of our systems challenges. So one of the things that's bothering me now as an acting HOD is it seems to me that even when these new systems are going to operate optimally as they should, there will still not be a one-on-one replacement in terms of staff capacity needed to run the functions on the new systems. So it seems to me that there was an assumption at the early stages of implementing all of this that the work currently being done by staff will just be one-on-one replaced by the work they need to do on the new platforms. Now, talking from first-hand experience, that's simply not true. There's more staff capacity needed in these new platforms. As I say, even when they operate exactly as they should. So my question to you is, has there been any attention given to how we will breach that gap, how we will address staff shortages, capacity shortages that's now been created because of new systems, and how are we going to move to try and address those gaps? Thank you.
Yeah. So, Prof. Keo, I think you would understand that when you have system changes, there would have to be interim arrangements that we would have to make once we have the system change. And we've already identified that, for example, in finance and so forth, where we have to put additional capacity in having the transition in systems. However, there's also teams working in terms of optimizing our business processes and our systems that in the medium term would result in a lower requirement and not having to have that additional capacity or the extra burden, I should say, in terms of administration in the system. So there's a two-pronged approach in terms of what we're doing over there. There are also challenges that we have in bottlenecks in the process where we have a culture in this organization sometimes that people believe that if they say we need help, it's seen as that they're not performing in the organization. So we're also having to deal with those kind of issues. We see definitely bottlenecks, and some of the bottlenecks are in our finance processes. We know that there should be extra capacity there, but people are very reluctant to say, give us the extra capacity. So we're also having to work with those kind of issues within the organization. But I can just ask Antoinette to give us just a sense of what we're doing from an IT business process point of view. We've got teams working in terms of mapping our business processes, optimizing them, simplifying our administrative processes, and also digitizing so that in the medium to long term, we get greater efficiencies in that regard.
Great, thank you very much, Chair, and thanks for that question. So I think systems, as the VC has said, always is about the people, the processes, but then also the underlying technology systems, right? So I think in terms of maturing and stabilizing our technology platforms that we're currently using, we're also looking at a coordinated way to prioritize enhancements to actually make the processes on the technology system less laborious and less time consuming. So I think it's working both on the business processes, the people, because it requires new ways of working, but then also the underlying technology systems in terms of making more effective and efficient. And lastly, I always say now I add data, right? So data is also part of the system issues that we need to look at. So thank you very much for that question.
I'm Coralie Silly from Industrial Psychology Department. Firstly, thank you for this. I would just like to know, I'm in my 39th year of being a personnel member at the university. And with the current increase in our medical aid, for free members, I'm the main member, for free members, I will be paying 10,000 Rand a month, which is a quarter of my salary. So I would just like to know, and also given the fact that I'm here so long, the cost to company hasn't done me any good at all, because cost to company has taken away, I had 2 increases a year, so it had taken away that additional increase, which were never replaced. I used to pay only 20% of my medical aid. Now I'm paying the full 100% of my medical aid. Yes, I will get the benefit when I retire, but in the meantime, we've got to be fed. And then the other issue regarding the Sun student system, I've really got a problem with that. The fact that it started in 2020, and yet it is not a smooth system. So why is it taking so long, firstly? And secondly, the EMS faculty is the biggest faculty in the university. And yet, if you look at the number of people working in the registrar's office with the EMS, they need to work full weekends from 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. They need to work in weekdays till 10 o'clock at night. When are they getting that time, additional time? When are they getting compensation for that extra time that they do put in? They're not recognized, because I know the one member has said to me she's on her way out because she can't handle this anymore. So I must be quite honest with you, I don't quite agree with the fact that we do not have such a lot of people leaving the university, as there's a lot of people that when you talk to them, they want to leave. Why? Because of the Sun student system that just doesn't operate functionally, and they're getting quite frustrated about it.
Thank you for raising these very, very important issues. And I can see by the applause that it resonates with people. I'm going to ask Japie to respond to the medical aid one, but I just wanted to make one comment, and that is that medical aid is very expensive, and we do a lot of work to look at how do we get best value for money. But let me give it over to Japie first.
Thank you, Miriam. I want to agree with Miriam. Healthcare is one of our difficult benefits. We don't have any control over it. We tried to bring in a cheaper option of MediHelp a few years ago to counter Discovery. But even MediHelp, the entry plans there is quite expensive. What I know about Discovery, they are really trying to enhance the entry-level market for our staff, or for South Africa, with the smart plan, stuff like that they are bringing in. But I can understand the medical aid, the payment, it is expensive. Healthcare cost in South Africa is unfortunately expensive. And there is a lot of discussions in the market about the NHI, stuff like that. That's discussion about that. But unfortunately, nothing is coming from that at the moment. So the public sector is struggling, and we, from the university side, we're doing what we can. Again, at the end of this year, we look at MediHelp to see if it's still sustainable. And then we also have, on the entry-level staff, we have the Help for Me, which is an awesome benefit, really. And if you're in that post levels, please make use of that benefit. But for the senior staff, the Discovery, the MediHelp, the medical healthcare cost is expensive, and we can't talk that away, unfortunately.
Thanks very much, Japie. So on your second set of points that you make is really critical, and it links to the question that Prof. Gio asked earlier. One of the things I remember out of the staff survey was this issue around workload, and workload that has gone up because of the system introduction. So I think there is a need to probably look at those departments or the people impacted, because it's not only the departments where the systems were introduced, it's actually across the board that has had an impact on workload. And to Prof. Teresh's point, to actually look at what are the temporary kind of positions one needs to alleviate that pressure. Very often it's about people having internal knowledge, but then you raise another point about compensate people for that. So I think where these are issues, it did come up in the past, and we had our HR client partners engage with Line in those departments to actually see how one can address it. But these are very, very important issues, because this is the other issue that came out in the staff survey was that people felt burnt out. So it's really important. I see another hand. Prof. Teresh, you want to say something?
No, I think just to add to what Miriam has said, I think I'd like Antoinette and Ronel to respond, because they've been working in terms of how we address these issues. I know the Registrar's Office in the past has also tried to identify ways in which we can address the kind of issues around workload. But going back to my response to Prof. Keogh, there's a challenge that we have. We've inherited it, and we've got to find together a solution as to how we get out to the other end where it is optimally functioning. And I think, we rely also in terms of getting the right kind of engagement from all of our line managers to ensure that we adequately recognize when there are challenges so that we can address them.
Is it on? Thank you for the opportunity. Maybe just to mention on the process efficiency side, we are working with IT to, in the Sun Student System, to identify those processes, and we actually have three reflection sessions coming up where we're including faculty, one around our readmissions processes, one around our end-of-year processes from marks capturing to graduation, and then one around registration to really look at the pressure points and to understand how we can improve either our staff capacity, as Prof. Quino mentioned, or how we can, over the medium term, address system inefficiencies to make that better. I'm happy to say that we've been using student interns actively to augment our staff capacity during peak periods, but we've also had the opportunity to create 5 additional positions specifically to support the larger faculty. So we're appointing additional capacity there. And then I'm also often in trouble with HR and finances for paying overtime. So I can assure you that, that I am within the rules. I have really been very cognizant of the extremely hard work of the colleagues. So yes, I'm surprised that you have the information that my staff are not being paid overtime. We are really paying a lot of attention because of the fact that they are putting in long hours during these peak periods. But you are correct that ultimately, we do want a more efficient system so that we don't have to end up in these positions where we pay, where people are burnt out. Money can only go that far when it comes to staff wellness. Thank you.
Before I come to the question over there, I just want to check with our technical colleagues whether there are any questions online. If you can just, none. Okay, thank you. Please go ahead. I think it was over there.
Sorry.
There's a hand there. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. So I also wanted to add to Courtleigh's comment and Prof. Quino's comment earlier. So there's specific inefficiencies and challenges that we face in Sun Student around the processes of having to log JIRA tickets and having very, very long lead times in terms of when we get a final response. And those processes add to the stress of both the student and staff that have to work in solving queries. And there's still a lot of errors on Sun Student that emerge only when we start uploading marks. And by then, when we start logging JIRA tickets, it adds a lot of stress to a time period that is already very, very stressful. So just to give an example, I have logged a JIRA ticket 2 years ago that they are still working on and resolving for a student that will hopefully graduate next week. So, thank you.
Thanks very much. Antoinette, if I may ask you to respond, thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. So I think the first point that immediately jumps to mind is please forward me that JIRA ticket that's been lying there for 2 years. It's totally unacceptable. So I think in terms of logging JIRA tickets, it does give, I know somebody said to me the other day, within IT, it's a system they love to hate, right? So it does give us at least a transparency and the tracking to say you logged it 2 years ago, it's not resolved yet, it's unacceptable. It's also unacceptable that it has not been tracked and followed up within the last 2 years. So I think those types of mechanisms we need to put in place to earlier get the alerts when the tickets are lying there for a long period. In terms of the errors in marks uploading, those things creeping in during this time period, and other errors within Sun Student, we've really been diligent, not just fixing the errors, but actually looking at the root causes. Because we can be fixing errors, 50 errors, 100 errors, and keep repeating if we don't actually solve it root cause. So we always look, is it a technology issue? Is it a person issue? Is it a business process issue? And I must say, in terms of the assessment, I don't know your specific example, but one example was a person error that didn't know what implications what she did at that stage would have downstream in terms of, for instance, marks disappearing, quote unquote. So I think we just always have to look at things at root cause, because otherwise we can be chasing 50 errors and just fixing without looking at the root causes. So thank you very much for that, and please forward me that ticket. Thank you.
Antoinette, thank you very much. Colleagues, I'm very conscious of time, so I'm going to allow the one last question, but also to say to you, you can send further questions, and the questions that have come in that has not been responded to, we will be able to then respond to that.
Thank
over to you.
It's two questions. The first question is with regards to medical aid, because we've got Discovery and MediHelp, if I understand well. What's the reason why only those two, and would it be beneficial if we added your momentums and everything? Will it be beneficial for the staff or not? The second one, Prof, it's directed to you basically. It's so very demoralizing every now and then to hear incidents happening from the residencies, and it's not good for our institutions. What are we really doing to nip this thing finally in the bud? I know we're dealing with human beings, but what are we going to do about that?
Yapi, if you could respond first, and then Prof. Daresh can respond to the second one. Thanks.
Thank you. Again, on the medical aid. At the moment, it is difficult for Stellenbosch University to move away from the Discovery or the MediHelp. We will lose our, they call it a status C concession that we've got. So all new employees that join the university will be able to join the medical aid from day one. If we don't have a Discovery or MediHelp anymore, and we just open it up to, which we won't be able to get the momentum, then Discovery would come back and say, but all new employees would have the 3 months waiting period and 12 months for exclusions. So it's difficult for us just to add any more medical schemes, but every year that is the conversation on the agenda. If we need to still stay with Discovery and with MediHelp, I think MediHelp's controversially this year. So we'll definitely, when the healthcare committee sits down at the end of this year, we'll definitely have a session again with MediHelp.
Okay, and the second question with regards to the kind of challenges that we have in the, in our residential spaces. I think we must understand we're dealing with young people that are in their formative years and not fully matured. They're going through a process of maturing. They would have errors in judgment in terms of what they do. We also find that alcohol plays a role in terms of what plays out in this particular spaces. That's a huge focus for us as an institution. in terms of the culture that we want to see in the residence space, but also a culture in the residence space that aligns with the values of the institution, that aligns with the constitution of the country. And there's a lot of work that we are putting in that regard from the student affairs space to kind of get that alignment of culture and values within the institution, in particular within the residence space. But I think, colleagues, you got to understand. I mean, these are 18 to 23-year-olds. Those of you that have kids that age, you should understand. It's a difficult thing in terms of them being enforced on rules, but what we're ensuring is that when things do take place, there is action, there is accountability. Because the only way they're going to learn is by understanding that there's accountability for your actions. But that goes along with proactive ways in which you're looking at culture change and so forth within the organization. So unfortunately, I can't guarantee you there'll be no incidences, because I'll be lying to you. It's an ecosystem, or it's a microcosm of society. And so all the challenges we face in society, we will face in the residences and in our social spaces of the university.
Thanks very much, Prof. Daresh. We are going to lose people. Is it an absolute burning question, or is it something you can email?
I just want to actually say that everything that has been said is all good and well, but in the end, our service delivery goes down the drain. That affects it. There's no ways about it.
Inspired and engaged staff make for good service delivery. Colleagues, I would really love for you to just stay for 1 or 2 minutes because I firstly just want to say thank you for your engagement. I think it's really important for these sessions to be meaningful and beneficial, and for the leadership to keep their ear to the ground. So I really, really value the fact that you have asked the questions, that you sent it beforehand, and keep doing that. And before we get to the lucky draw, we want to start with a fun moment from our December assembly. If you just give me a moment. We invited staff to get creative and turn their lunch boxes into festive gifting boxes. And we received some wonderful entries, and staff voted for their favorites. And so I just wanted to announce the winners. So second place goes to Whitney Prince. Give her a round of applause. I don't know if she's here or online. And then the first place goes to Maverick Lee Wade. Round of applause. So we want to thank you who entered. We want to thank everybody who entered and shared your creativity with us, and to everyone who voted as well. And if you enjoyed this challenge, keep an eye on today's lunchbox. There might just be another challenge waiting for you. So we end our session, as I promised, with a bit of fun by selecting 5 random winners using the Spin the Wheel tool. Each winner will receive the gift voucher sponsored by the Mati shop, and vouchers can be collected along with your lunchboxes in the foyer. Staff who are not in attendance will be contacted to arrange a collection. So I need my technical colleagues to help spin the wheel. Oh. Is it working? Geraldine Menon. Well done. Okay, I can tap again. I must leave it, it will spin. Thank you. Audrey Poole. I hope the colleagues are all here. Anati Duda. 2 more, I think. Zama Mashimbi. And the last one, I think. Colette Knutzer. Well done, colleagues. And with that, it leaves me to say thank you, Nkosi Danki, go well, and all the best for 2026.